paranoid. All right, I think it's recording, right?
I
Yeah.
think it's
Yes,
working.
it says that
Um,
it's recording. How long do we have to? How long is? I should
30
have asked that before.
minutes.
I should have asked before we started recording.
How long we have
But
to record or how long we have?
No, I mean,
um,
I think it has to be like around 30 minutes.
30
We
to
have
30 minutes to an hour. And there's four questions, so we can just go through them one by one. And I feel like if we've got our
okay,
30 minutes, I think we're okay.
okay,
exactly.
good.
All
I
right.
just wasn't sure how. Yeah, I'm as.
Santiago, are you screen recording also? Because I'm so, like I was telling Santiago, I'm so paranoid about something going wrong
Yeah, give me
on
one
my
second.
end, and then it's all my fault. We don't have a recording.
I'm sure it'll be fine. It should. We all should have access to the record. If
Okay.
hmm, I think we should all have access to the recording after the fact. So as long as it doesn't get lost on the Zoom service, we should be okay.
I'll just press stop recording when we're done, and it should just save to my
Oh,
computer.
Okay.
Right?
Awesome.
All right.
Yeah, it should. Or it may be on on your Zoom website. It kind of depends on how it's set up.
Right. Okay.
Because like if I do it from my Teams, I'm sometimes I have to go to the team site to
The
catch
site. Okay, that's good to know. Thank you. Because
to
yeah,
pull it
it
down.
wasn't my app wasn't working, so I am on the site, so that's good. So that's the first question.
And clearly my cat is going to join us too.
Please, by all means. I feel
This
like
is
mine will shortly
this
join
is
as well.
Donut.
They donut.
Yes, this is Donut.
They love
Um,
when you're on
not that you
here.
can probably see him, but Angelo is
beautiful.
over there, so he may join us too.
Very
Perfect.
good. Shoshana, where do you live? In the east, you
I live
said?
in Louisville, Kentucky.
Okay, very
So
nice.
I am right on the edge of the Eastern time zone.
Correct. Correct. Right on the edge.
All right.
And Sima, you said you're in the west, right?
I'm in Vegas.
Vegas. Okay.
Mhm.
Very good.
I'm going to be out in Vegas. Somehow we should meet up. I am going to be
Yeah.
out in Vegas for a work conference.
Oh my God, when are you going to be here?
The I think it's the 10th through the 12th. I'm flying in on Monday the 9th, but I get in at like 6 o'clock in the morning. It's
Oh
really
my
kind
God.
of crazy.
Awesome. Yeah, let me know. We'll grab coffee or whenever you're free. Is that a weekend?
No, it's not. It's midweek. I'll be there Monday through Thursday
Okay,
evening.
well, I work near the strip, so you'll probably be on the strip, right?
Yeah, we'll be at the Bellagio.
Perfect. Yeah, we'll grab like a lunch or
So,
something.
yeah, that'd be great.
Loves
That's
it. All
nice.
right, should we jump in?
Yeah.
Sure. I
All
see you
right.
put the questions in the chat, so
Yeah,
let me.
sorry, the last one should say four, but we can
That's fine.
conceptualize that.
Good enough.
You know, give me
Uh,
strengths of Roizen's work. What are the weaknesses? I don't mind starting because I actually wrote notes because I accidentally thought we had to like turn this in. So I don't mind
oh,
if you guys don't,
okay.
unless you guys want
No,
to
no,
start.
no.
Yeah,
That,
no, right.
that works.
Sure.
So just going over her, Shoshana, did you get the chance to watch the video? I know you said you read most of it.
Hmm.
Yeah. So
Yeah,
I
most of
feel
it.
like it was it was hard to evaluate her for me because I don't base my life off of like how to build a network. I noticed after doing a lot of the reading, um, and after the videos and everything that my network is actually really strong. I always assumed that it wasn't because I'm very selective with who I keep in my close tier, right? Or the
Hmm.
strong tier, like my inner circle of people is small. Um,
Hmm.
but they were, as we were reading, the weak tier is actually what, the outer circle is actually what gives you the most opportunity. And I have a really big weak tier. And so I was surprised by how that is actually more valuable when it comes to business networking.
Hmm.
So I was interested in her strategy. I thought some of her biggest strength lay in her strategy of how she acquires these contacts and how she builds those relationships. I like her two-way street philosophy. I think that is key to avoiding the ick/cringe factor of networking, where we can kind
Hmm.
of be like, ooh, like, am I kind of being that I was just reading my son, If You Give a Mouse a Cookie. Santiago, do you know that book?
Uh-huh.
It's like, Like,
No. But
it's a
I.
children's book where like
Mhm.
if you give a mouse a cookie, he's gonna want a glass of milk, and if you give him a glass of milk, he's gonna want the next, and it just goes on and on that he's just gonna want more and more stuff from you, and you don't ever
Right.
want to
No.
be that mouse, right? You don't ever want to be like, give me more, help me more. So I like the idea that she always makes sure that it's a two-way street. Um, some of the weaknesses for me were, I don't know how exactly, and I'm sure she's much better at this than us and me, but how does she make the criteria of, oh, this person's going to be beneficial to me and this person's not, right? Because she's selective with who she decides to interact with, but she's also a mentor. So she is taking on people who are at a lower level than her business wise. But I'm curious to understand how she actually makes the decision to bring someone into her network and put them on her listserv. And then the other weakness that I noticed is maintenance. It feels a little bit like she creates this blanket list for her, like her Christmas letter and this sort of generalized, almost like collection of people. And I don't know. I
Mhm.
mean, she even said she doesn't always have the bandwidth to maintain that. But at the same time, that might not really matter, right? Because we're learned, like we said, like the weak ties actually are beneficial. So that's what I came up with anyway.
Yeah,
Mhm.
I have a hard time assessing her network for weaknesses specifically, partially because I feel like my networks are so I are so bad, like in so many ways. I mean, I have a large range of people that I have met and that at varying points in my career I've interacted with, but I am horrible about maintaining those connections in any way. And then, the longer it goes, the harder it is to reconnect, kind of thing. Um, so it, it kind of is a situation where I look at it and I'm a bit amazed at her ability to maintain as much of the network as she does. But there again, in a lot of ways, her entire career is is creating and growing and maintaining her network. And that's great for somebody that's what they do. But I don't necessarily understand how to apply some of that to, all right, I'm already working 50 hours a week and I have, all this other stuff. How do I apply that given the time constraints that I face? And I felt like that too when I did the readings for Ibarra and Biome. I think that, it sounds great. The whole, oh, people generally spend, if you're spending a week or an hour or so a week, that's really not enough to maintain a network. And I'm thinking to myself, I don't have 2 hours a day, an hour or 2 hours a day to spend doing that. So I don't
Mhm.
know. I don't know. Clearly her network is very strong, but there again, her entire financial situation and career is based upon that network being
It,
strong.
it depends on it. Yeah. And
Yeah.
uh, if you let me, Shoshana, I mean, I think
Sure.
I mean, you went straight to the point. I think, I mean, this is my perspective only, but I think it really depends, going back to your point, what you do for a living. So in her case, obviously her financial situation, most of her income depends on her network, which might not be your case or same as or my case, right? It's I think it's very, very personal, but I think what we gotta so the point here is what we do, what we can actually learn from this exercise or this case is that we can all I mean we can all extend or work on our own networks because it is important. It's definitely important to some extent. For some people, it's going to be more than to others, but I think we all can get something out of this in order to, I guess, improve our networking efforts. It might be an hour for you, Shoshana, or it might be 2 hours for me a week. For her, it might be, it's a full-time job, 50 hours a week. So I think I mean, for me, that's the key point, and that's something that I really liked about the whole exercise. But I
Mhm.
mean, going back to the weaknesses that you were asking, Shima, regarding the question, I think that once you get like very into the whole networking stuff, just like Royce mentioned, is that sometimes a lot of people start like asking for favors, or actually people who you just met once in your life, or you just talked for briefly in a briefly introduction or whatever it was. They started asking like for favors, and then you lose a lot of time and valuable time. And then how do you say no to those people, or how do you, because it's hard. And she explained that I think it was in the video or in the reading, that it's hard to actually say, to tell people that you can't help them, or that you don't want to, just because maybe you don't identify yourself with them, in a personal way or in a professional way. You don't like their values, or or you realize that they're just looking for you to get something out of you, and at the end of the day, they're not gonna give you something in return. So I think that's the hardest part of actually building a very strong network, because you got to choose which people actually you would like to work with, because at the end of the day, it's all about give and return. So yeah, I mean, that's my personal opinion. And for me, I come from a industry that requires a lot of networking. So for me, it's been very beneficial to go through these whole exercise, because what we do so I come from a insurance background, and I am a broker for reinsurance companies. So most of our business comes from established relationships. So for us, it's very, very important how we network and how we approach people. Um,
Mhm.
and and yeah, but I totally get it, that it's very, very specific to people's actually professions and jobs and industries. Yeah.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. I definitely focused more on networking when I was a journalist than now as like a risk analyst. It's like totally different
Right.
worlds, but um
Mhm.
totally agree. So, yeah, does anyone want to take number two? I don't want to start every single one like
That's okay. So number two was, what specific steps did Rosen take to develop and maintain her network? Um, from That's a good question. So from what I remembered, like, she obviously started as a Silicon Valley executive, and then she went to the venture capitalist world, and entrepreneur as well. And what I can remember is, one of her first main challenges to actually maintain her network was when she joined Apple back in I think it was 98. And
Mhm.
one of her first challenges was to actually sit down with the Microsoft, uh, leading and board team, because they had some discussions and internal issues. And obviously, Apple and Microsoft obviously had a lot of common interests. So it was a very frictional and very delicate time. And it was, for her, she had great relationships with Bill Gates and the rest of the executive team. So she was able to ask literally for favors, and to come to a understanding between the two parties, and get to a settlement that both entities or both firms actually agreed on. So I think that that's a great example of how you can actually, first of all, leverage your network, but also maintain, and not burn your bridges when you leave a company or an industry, or when you change from one place to the other. So I think that's super, super important.
Shoshana, my cat,
Yeah,
arrived.
I think her use of the listserv, and that the listserv in some ways really helps her maintain, kind of loosely maintain those weak ties, because even if she isn't necessarily sending content to them regularly, she sends it frequently enough that she kind of stays in top of, stays in the back of someone's mind. So I think that was a really good place as we shift from using things like listservs into LinkedIn and other social networks. That kind of changes, your necessity to do it that way changes a little bit. Though, sending a personal email or sending a letter, sending out like a holiday letter or something like that, a physical one it's going to make you stand out from the people who just post things on social media regularly. So yeah, I appreciated that the steps that she took to build relationships with people who were closer in her circle in terms of trying to provide that two-way street, and what do I find interesting, and providing, giving something to those that you work with, or those that you talk to, instead of it just being taking, I think is a really valuable tip, and something to keep in mind. My new role has me as an executive counselor. I spend a lot of time talking with executives about things that are happening in their organization, and they're really there to provide expertise, and also just some guidance and direction on things that might help them. And so as I get further into this role, I think utilizing some of the techniques that Roizen used to build her network and to connect people together will be really helpful as a part of this role. I'm just not sure how I'm going to do that yet.
I think it's a difficult task to take on, especially if, like you said, it's not necessarily something you've practiced. And I don't know that I'm someone who practices it consciously either. So I think it is hard to start to integrate it. But I also feel like once you get the ball rolling, it just kind of snowballs, right? Because I feel like once you make, a handful of connections and you connect people, then you start to be known as that. My issue with her was, she even said, all I'm known for is networking. And people think that's all I am. And she got kind of frustrated about it in the videos, like, well, that is what you are mainly, that's what you do. But anyway, back to the thing. Two things that I thought were really good steps was she sort of took the work out of seeking out connections by offering mentorship, because it's almost like, okay, now you apply to me to be in my network, which obviously she had to do the work, to build like something huge and reputable first. But once that was established, now people can actually like come to her to apply to be a part of it. And I thought that was really intelligent and strategic, because fostering the young talent, now they owe you something as they're stepping into these bigger roles where you could use it. I think that was really strategic and intelligent. And then the other thing that she ended up not having as much time for in the end is hosting the big events, which is something I love to do. Part of the reason we moved to Vegas from LA was because we wanted the space to host, and this house is full of people all the time, and I love that. And I really have seen how that can strengthen bonds and bring people together. They say there's this, I didn't know that it was a thing in the pickup artist community, but there's this concept that if you spend time with somebody in one place, that's one bond. But if you spend the same amount of time, let's say we spend 2 hours together, and we go to 3 different locations, I'm going to feel like I know you better, and I'm going to feel like our bond is stronger, even if it's the same amount of time, and even if the content of our conversation is the same. It's just how our brains work. And so I think removing the step, the environment of an office, a work party, or whatever, and bringing people into the home, I think it just creates that new psychological level of, oh, I do know, this person. I didn't love how she sort of admitted, like, people will come to me and say, oh, I met you at your house, and I think, oh, were you there? And I'm like, okay, so now you're kind of admitting that you are overextending a little bit, and I almost wouldn't
Mhm.
even admit that. Like, you know what I mean? Because it just makes people feel unseen, especially when they've been in your own home. Of
Yeah.
course, like she's having 200 people over, so I get it, but still, examine the list before people come, like, in my opinion. But I don't know.
Can
I'm
be
not in her position.
overwhelming as well. Yeah.
Yeah, it seems like she's a little overwhelmed now at this point, but who
Yeah,
would
at this
be?
point. I mean,
Yeah.
if you think about it, this video that we saw is was almost 20 years ago.
Yeah.
So it
Yeah.
would be very interesting to see, how she has adjust and develop those relationship, which is, how is she doing now? That'll
Yeah.
be interesting to see, especially because, in the past 20 years, technology and globalization has just, it's been tremendous. So
Yeah.
uh, has a tremendous growth. So it would be for me, it would be very interesting to see like how she adjusted into all of those changes.
Agreed.
Be interesting. Yeah, I agree. Since it would be interesting to see. I didn't think about that I could have looked up to see what is she doing now.
Mhm.
Um, because it would be interesting to see if she has like, does she have a group on LinkedIn? Um, let
Yeah,
me,
I
matter of
think,
fact, while we're talking here, let me pull up
yeah,
LinkedIn and let's see what it looks like.
yeah, she's
Yeah,
a,
Um,
mentioning like LinkedIn is such a great, oh my God, I'm full of cat hair, is such a great way to
it's a great tool.
it's a great
Yeah.
way to, yeah, it's a great tool, but it's also a great way to, without inhibition, approach someone for a purely business reason. And
Correct.
everybody knows why we're there, right? Whereas when people reach out to me on Facebook, or reach out to me on Instagram,
It's different.
but it's different, especially when I was a journalist. It's like, this doesn't feel legitimate to me.
Yeah.
I don't know if I wrote it in the post or here, but one person actually wrote to me one time back when I was working in fashion long, long ago. And they were like, oh,
Mhm.
hey, we have
mhm.
mutual friends. Let's network. And honestly, I blocked that person. I was like, that feels so off to me. Let's network. Whereas if we did that on
Yeah, that's
LinkedIn, you never
weird.
bat an eye. You'd be like,
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah, exactly. You wouldn't
network.
be exactly. That's true.
Okay, so is on she is on LinkedIn. It looks like um she's still in at venture capital.
Venture
She's at
capital.
Threshold Ventures.
Mhm. She,
Um,
yeah, she's a partner at Threshold Ventures.
yeah, and it looks like she also is involved at Stanford. Um, she's like sitting on a ton of boards. That's what
but
it
but
looks like.
But look, I think this is very interesting. So basically the first thing that she says about herself is, no, I am at LinkedIn's and post limit for accepting connections, and my inbox here is completely overrun. Therefore, please email me directly if you would like to get in touch with me.
Which
So
now her email is probably
which is
like,
which is if you think about it, I mean it's crazy because like she's open to actually to pretty much receiving an email from
Mhm.
anybody in the world. So, and which is, I mean, I think it's very impressive. And she was also mentioning in her video that, like somebody asked her, like, how do you answer all those emails? How do you find the time to actually get something out of all those emails, or how do you find that time? And she mentioned like, well, you just gotta, you gotta be obviously be very straight to the point. You gotta write very short answers, very simple emails, and that doesn't mean that you're not interested, but you're showing respect and you're acknowledging that you care about the other person on the other side. So, uh, and when I started thinking about it, I've been, on my own networking, when I reach to people, obviously on senior levels, or you know more more senior, obviously than myself, I've noticed that, and then you realize like, oh, they actually care. It's not that they don't care, because maybe the more junior you are, you put more effort into your emails, into what you do in order to reach to somebody, and then on the other hand, they probably just answer with a very short note, if even, right? But then, I mean, I don't know. I think that was very, very interesting because I realized, oh, they actually care. They actually are putting some time. But I don't know. It's just for me that she's saying like, please email me if in case you wanna connect. It's pretty. fascinating on her own world, right? Because that's where, again, that's what she does for a living.
Yeah. So
So
it's
no,
interesting
yeah.
that she also, like, I'm just kind of scrolling through her posts here. Um, about a month ago, she posted uh, a large language model that she trained on her own podcast.
Okay. Yeah.
And I mean, that's an interesting take on things. And then she's, you know, she does a lot of reposting and a lot of um so I don't know. It's definitely interesting to see how she's evolved. But yeah, that's a lot of emails to go through. I can't imagine how many emails that she gets on a regular basis.
Yeah. I think imagine this. I think back then, 20 years ago, she was receiving 90 emails an hour. Can't imagine how many she has, today. So
I don't really care what she says. There's no way that you can respond or read all of that. There's no way. I mean, she must have somebody, a few people going through everything and deciding what's important, right? Has
what
to.
people were not, yeah,
Has to. That's your whole life otherwise.
yeah.
You know?
I was going to say I can't get through the email that I get for work, like from my own company
No.
Right.
about
Like every day.
the research. I mean, I think I probably get, even if I'm not just the ones directed at me, but just the research emails, I probably get 20 to 30 research emails a day
Yeah.
that just talks about research that my company is doing. And I can't get through that. I can't imagine if I was receiving 100 or more emails
An
from
hour.
random
Oh
people
my
a
God.
day
That's
Yeah.
to
crazy.
connect. I like, it almost gives me anxiety just thinking about it.
Yeah, I know.
Connor, you're
And I,
gone, by the way. I don't know if that matters.
Oh, am I gone?
Yeah.
Oh, it probably is because it was
You were
probably because I
scrolling.
went
Okay.
out
I
to
don't know
leave
if it
in.
matters. I just want to let you know.
perfect. No, no.
Thanks. So,
And I mean, for me, I get it that obviously, as a venture capitalist, you are looking, for different ideas, different people in order to invest. So, I mean, I get it from her standpoint. I think what we have to do is really focus on, what can we take from her in order to put it into our own networking. Doesn't matter how small or big our own networking is. We all, to some
mhm.
extent, have to do it. And yeah, I think that's the main obviously goal, and hopefully we can all learn a little
Oh,
bit of
running out of time. Upgrade to Zoom Workplace Pro and unlock the latest features.
and
We should be able to go to 45 minutes.
Yeah,
yeah,
that's what I thought too.
which is more
Okay.
than enough.
So, okay, so we probably need to like
Let's wrap it
shift
up
on. So I
next.
think we've kind of touched
Quickly.
on
We're
the
going
last two already, actually.
Oh, so did you took that test? Um, that thing that was due on the 14th, and then we had to answer questions.
Yeah, I haven't
yeah,
answered the questions yet, but
You had to answer
I
questions.
did take the test.
It was interesting to me. I'm gonna do the next two answers in like 3 sentences or less. So like
yeah.
basically, it was interesting to me because I know one of the biggest strengths that I had, where I scored almost like 100, like very very high, is influence on my network. So I influenced people very well, but where I scored really low, like in the 30s, was connecting different groups of people together and influencing groups to go outside of their comfort zones. And it's totally true. Planning my wedding now, I'm like, I don't want to, like mentally, I don't want to combine these different groups of people, but I have to. And so that's something that I need to work on that she's really good at.
hmm Yeah, so my scores were really bad on that. And partially because I used my network at my new company, and I've only been there since January. So like in a few months, you can't really become somebody that people are gonna like turn to you for advice
Mm,
within your company in 3 months.
mm.
So I felt like there were a lot of those that if I had chosen a different network, the answers might be different. would, the ranking would be very different. Um, but yeah, it's definitely how do you grow that? And yeah, the whole connecting different networks together. So as you said, Simone, with your wedding, you're doing that with your wedding. So I did that with my daughter's bat mitzvah.
Yeah.
And it was like I had my ex's family and I had my family and I had my partner's family, and none of these were groups of people who go together. And then on top of it, I had all of the different social networks of like some of my ex's friends, and here are my friends, and here's the group of parent friends, and here's some of Jeff's close friends, and putting them all together in the room in the same room was anxiety provoking, even though, and in the end, while they were all in the same room with each other, I didn't mix them up in the seating. Like all of my ex's family and his friends were in one corner of the room, and I put, like everybody was split up because I was so afraid of people not getting along or having such varying different worldviews that it concerned me to try to kind of split things up and create more opportunities for that, to connect those networks together for
But
them to
in
find
your
other things in
defense, as a
common.
divorcee as well, this is my second marriage. I don't want my ex at my wedding. Like, I don't want any of his friends. Like, I don't want, like, that would be horrible. And I know it's different. Like, when my son has his bar mitzvah, he's only 7, I'm thinking about now. That is going to be an awkward situation. And I think,
Oh, it's
like,
awkward.
I
It's
think that's
awkward as
way
hell.
worse than anything that's coming up in business. I don't know. I mean, I don't know. But that's a whole different level of awkward.
But I do understand what you're talking about, and by all means, keep my name in your back pocket when it gets to the bar mitzvah time. I will
I'm
coach
going to
you
be
through it because it
panicking.
is
Oh my God.
horrible.
Yeah. Yeah. Not looking forward.
It's not, it's yeah. And just the whole working the kid through it in and of itself. Like no matter how wonderful your child is, that period is just stressful. um but yeah, I mean it's a great this is a great case to understand the complexities of networking and how
Right.
to put it together. um
Also, sorry guys, don't panic, Santiago. I'm literally in the process
No.
of paying for the full version so that we can not be cut off.
Oh, yeah. I mean, don't worry.
so
Thank you.
so yeah,
It's
Santiago,
been a
let's
long time coming.
hear
I needed to
what
do
your
it.
thoughts
So,
are about your
I mean,
network and
so my
the
thoughts were I just opened my report just to refresh my mind. So I also, my lowest scores were to actually, I mean, based on my ability to influence or share opinion or shape opinions on other people. That's
Mhm.
where I, scored the lowest. And my highest were to gather information and perspectives within my organization or my own network. And
Mhm.
um, when I was reading through it, I was like, oh, this makes a lot of sense. Probably because of many reasons. The assignment or the assignment that we did, all the names that I chose were all connections that I have now here in the US. I've been only here for 2 years in New York since I moved from Mexico. So it made a lot of sense that I still don't have the ability to actually share those information those ideas or perspectives. And I know that I have a lot to work on, and that was one of my main challenges coming to the US. I knew I've been in the business for a couple of years now. Obviously, I'm still young, but I'm 29. But in Mexico, my connections would have been very, very different. I think the report would have come differently. And here in the US, that's my main challenge. That's my main challenge. I understand I consider myself a empathic person. I understand people's feelings, their needs, which is, it was my highest scoring here. But my ability to actually share my opinions or perspectives, it's pretty low, and it's probably because of that. So part of the thing that I want to work on is how can I, approach the right people and actually connect them. Especially, I'm a broker. So back to one of the readings that we have, I think it was Ibarra's, the broker has a very important position in the sense that, is responsible to actually sharing the right information in the right way between, the two sides. So it's a connector at the end of the day. It might be not the person who has the most relationships, but it's one of the most important ones in what we do. So I think I have a lot to work on this, and I think the report was, I mean, it was very interesting, and I can take a lot of good intel from this
I'm the daughter of an
going
immigrant, by
forward.
the way,
Yeah.
Santiago. So, and my father built a huge network and, a lot of things for himself in France.
Mhm.
Um, and then he kind of lost everything and came over and started all over again. And so I know that I don't know it firsthand, but secondhand from, growing up, watching him, especially when I was younger, because he came here when my mom was already pregnant with me. So,
Mhm.
watching that struggle of the rebuild, it is a grind and it is hard to do. So,
Yeah.
props to you. Like I understand secondhand. That is just an extra layer of difficulty to break through. It's been not easy.
Yeah.
Yeah,
No, exactly.
absolutely.
Yeah. And I mean, I obviously knew that was going to be part of my challenge, and all the difficult conversations that I've had with my current manager, and when we go through the reviews and everything, they're all, for the most part affected by, the amount of relationships that you have, because at the end of the day, the business that we bring in, it's because of the relationships we develop. So if I'm competing with people who have been here for many years, who know those connections, obviously I
Mhm.
have a disadvantage, but that's part of, yeah, I think from my perspective, that's part of the beauty and part of the challenge that I'm going through right now. And yeah, I mean, it's going great, for 2 years that I've been here, but I think this was very, very interesting because I've never saw it like so much in detail.
Mm,
Mhm.
So
makes
yeah.
sense.
Mhm. And
I felt
then
like I couldn't answer this question because it's like, how dare I give her suggestions?
Yeah,
The
I'm kind
audacity
of in that
is
same boat.
level
It's
I
10.
wish
like,
we could know her better to really give her, an advice. I also didn't answer that question, but um,
What did I write?
yeah, I don't know. It's hard to how do you get when someone is so much better
Yeah,
at
like
doing something than you are,
finally
how do you give them
suggest.
advice about that the thing that they are so good at?
Yeah.
Um, you know, I don't really know what advice
I mean,
I would give her.
it's funny, Shoshana, because she mentioned in one of I think it was in the video, she actually mentioned that whenever that happens, because it happens to us all, when you're trying to approach or connect with somebody who is, who knows the topic so well that you can actually not give something in return in terms of, that specific, profession topic, wherever it is, she recommended go for the hobbies, go for their personal life, because maybe you can contribute in some sense, in what they actually like besides work, besides what they do in
Mhm.
profession. So, trying to, build on that recommendation that she actually gave. I don't know. I would just like recommend her to spend as much time as she can with her daughters or kids, and to really just I don't know. I really don't know, but I guess not answering that many emails and having more assistants,
Yeah.
uh, to really spend more time with her family.
Mm.
But I don't know. That's a very I think it's a
I
complex
might I might
complex question.
actually tell her to take some time. She spends so much time with others,
Yeah.
reaching out to others, having them reach out to her constantly, kind of this constant give and take of information flow that I wonder if she spends enough time really understand, for lack of a better way to put it, alone.
Mm.
And what does it mean to be alone and to know within yourself, oh, these are the things that are really important to me. These are the things that, that kind of the things that you find about yourself when you do take time alone and in solitude. Um, and I guess if I was going to give her any advice, it might be about taking some time to yourself to see if that changes your perspective on how you engage with your wider network.
Right.
I think those are both really good points. The personal aspect, which isn't something that occurred to me, but hearing you guys talk, there was something that rubbed me the wrong way. I don't know if you felt the same, Shoshana, as a mom. Santiago, I don't actually know if you have kids or not, but no.
Not
But
yet.
but still, you
Yeah.
know, when she was talking about her teenagers, and she was like, "Oh, we argue. They don't want me to do the Christmas list, the Christmas card anymore. They don't want naked baby pictures of themselves, and so we had to come to a compromise." I'm surprised that she even thought to include that without asking them for consent. I mean, even now with Jude, like before, if I'm going to post a photo of him or what, I do
Yeah.
ask him, like, "Do you like this? Do you want this? Do you want people to see this?" And I think that children should have that autonomy over their image, and also over what personal details are shared with the world as well. I think that's important. And if she's disregarding that aspect, it sounds like she readjusted well, but if she was disregarding that aspect, I think to both of your points, how much is sacred and personal, and how much
Mhm.
is to be shared with the business world, right? How much is to be
Mhm.
shared with those connections? I think that's a really good point to separate the personal and the business. Not everything, or maybe it is. I mean, I don't know, but maybe not everything is a tool to connect with a potential business connection. Maybe some things are just for you. I don't know.
I don't know. I'm very conscious about what I post about Faye
Hmm.
and what conversations I have while I've been a single mother for most of my daughter's life. So I've never hidden that. I'm always very upfront about that in professional situations because it impacts my availability, honestly. Um, but I also am conscious about what I share about her.
Hmm.
Or um, like I was writing some resilience articles and I wrote one during a really difficult time with Faye where she was going through some health problems. And I talked about that we were dealing with the health problems, but I didn't say what it was or
You
like what we
specified.
were
Yeah. Mhm.
working through. I
Hmm.
just said that I was challenged with this and then mostly talked about how my coworkers and colleagues had become, had stepped up to support me through it. Um, and that's important to know where is that line between I can be, very open and honest about what's going on in my personal life in a professional setting to a point.
Hmm.
Um, and I agree with you somehow. I was a little turned off by her over willingness to share things
Hmm.
about her kids
Hmm.
that I don't necessarily find okay. Like
If
I
they're
was
not
never
okay,
one.
if they're loving it and they want to share, great. But it really didn't sound like she considered them at all. It sounded like they're sitting there in all their teenage angst, cringing at this, and then they're wanting to write things, and she's saying, "Well, you're not funny enough, so you can." It's like, but
Yeah, I mean that's
yeah,
not.
is it funny though? What I want to see one of these letters before I judge if it's funny or appropriate.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. That relationship and like how much, even just her conversation. In some ways, even the conversation about the fact that they had this struggle.
Mm.
It's like, were your kids okay with you sharing that you were having this parental struggle with that?
Yeah.
The
The naked
struggle
photos
around
too, like
autonomy.
there's no way in a network of 500 purely weak ties or mainly weak ties, there's not some creeps in there. Like I'm very conscious about sharing
Oh
things
yeah, of
first and
course.
showing children. again, she's not meaning it in this way, but are you thinking about the expanse of the circle that you're in? Because this is a very common and pervasive problem. I
Mhm.
won't get too much into it, but I've worked a lot with this issue when I was a journalist. Um, you really want to be careful about what you're putting out there when it comes to your kids. Not everybody is normal, if you know what I'm saying.
Right.
And if you have this
Right.
huge network,
Especially
I
nowadays.
would venture to think that somebody in there is not normal. So,
Right.
yeah, you want
And
to
I
be.
mean, I was always very conscious about, I don't post anywhere near as much about my daughter now as I did when she was younger. But even when she was younger, I never really took the pictures of her
I don't think I have any naked. I was
with,
thinking it's like
you know,
naked photos of Jude.
like
I'm
in
like,
the bathtub
I don't have
or
that. Yeah, I don't have
naked
that either.
baby pictures. Like I didn't really take any of those because I was not comfortable with it, knowing that it was going to live somewhere, even if it was just
Right.
in my backup folders in my cloud backup. That doesn't
Yeah.
mean that someone couldn't get a hold of it and
But it's
couldn't
also
find
like,
it.
what is it
Definitely.
necessary? Like, is this a memory that I
Yeah.
need? Like, you know what I mean?
Right.
It's cute when they're in the diapers. It's cute when they're in their swimsuits. But like, I don't know. I don't need like a bath photo of, oh, look at you in the bath. Like, I don't know.
Yeah. Like
That's weird
I
to
don't,
me.
that's, yeah.
I don't know. Santiago, what do you think? You're
I,
sort
you
of
know, like I,
weird.
I don't think I can contribute that much because I still don't have kids, but yeah, I mean it's important for me to start thinking about it.
Hmm.
But yeah, no, I agree. I agree. But I'll let you know once I have, kids in a few
Yeah.
years. Yeah.
Oh. But I mean, as far as like what I would recommend for her to enhance her network, I don't know that I really have good commentary on that.
Yeah.
um, yeah.
I mean, I guess the only recommendation probably that I could give her is to really understand and take advantage of, the current tools that are available in the market, all that
Mhm.
technology that I don't know, maybe she can use AI in order to, answer a lot of emails or I guess just, yeah, take advantage of the tools, the technology that is available nowadays to really get sometimes for herself and her family and really, I guess use the time wisely because
Right.
otherwise it can be overwhelming. Because yeah, back to the point is there's no way that she can actually, have more than 500 friends. It's just not possible.
Hmm.
Uh, so yeah, that
I'd
will
be
be.
interested to
Uh,
know what her, because I didn't think they did, like none of it to me, and maybe I just didn't finish it. It wasn't very clear who is her tight circle,
Right.
and how many people are really in that inner circle. Because I mean, like I can look at, I mean, I have over 1,000 connections on LinkedIn.
yeah,
Frankly, there's a lot of people in that list of 1,000 that I've met them in passing.
and that's
I
it.
would not consider them to be somebody that I'm like, oh yeah, I really know them.
Yeah, yeah,
Hmm.
agree. I couldn't agree more. So, which again, it makes it very hard to, select the people who you actually want to work with. And I mean, she mentioned it a lot of times, like how do you actually say no to all those people, especially if those people, imagine, Shoshana, that those 1,000 people are approaching you to ask you for favors or sharing ideas, like, I mean, you'd be
It would just
overwhelmed.
be crazy.
Right?
I
Would be
mean,
crazy.
you'd never get through it all.
Hmm.
Right. Right. So I think for her, what she really has to work on is, which I think she does, but still like to constantly work on how to select the people you want to work with and how to say no to the rest of them in a nice way. Because I think one
Mhm.
of the examples she gives is the husband of one of her good friends was approaching her all the time to actually, share an idea and try to work with her. And she mentioned like, well, she is my friend, but I've never really talked to him. And just because he knows that he is my friend's husband, he believes he has the right to really, get something out of me. And she didn't think it was fair. but then how do you say no, right? In a good way. So it's gotta be difficult, and I mean that's a skill that she definitely has to work on, and not just her. I think everybody, and because we all have that to some extent in our lives.
You know, and
So
one of my best friends is a nightlife owner. She belongs to a group called H-Wood Group. So they own a big place out here called Delilah at the
Mhm.
Wynn. They own a lot of the top nightlife places in LA, like Nice Guy and like Delilah. They own like all these really high end, difficult to get into places, right? Like after
Mhm.
hours clubs, lounges, all that. And I have been friends with her. She's been my best friend for like 15, 16 years. And I said to her, you meet so many people who want to get into the club, who want to get into the where Drake is sitting, who want to do all this stuff. And they're constantly approaching her, texting her, whatever. And I have never heard anybody say that they've had a bad experience with you because she can't let most of these people in. Most of them, the
Right.
answer is
Right.
absolutely not. Like they're no, you know. I've never heard anyone have a bad experience with you, you know. And she said the key is to always make them feel like they can come back. Never shut the door completely. They're denied right
Mhm.
now, but you leave the door open that they can always come back. Unfortunately, sometimes they do, and so you have to continue to tell them no, but you
right.
never give a hard no. You always value the fact that they came to you and you make them feel you can come back. And
Mhm.
I think that could maybe help, you know, with what you're saying, Santiago. Like if people are approaching you constantly, refining, and I haven't refined it yet, but you know, kind of refining that response of I value what you've done. It's not right at this moment, but the door is open to you for future, you know? I don't know.
Mhm.
Some people may still take
Yeah.
advantage, but you know,
No, I think that's really important to be able to do that. I'm not great at that.
me neither. I will shut people down, and that's a problem
Yeah,
that I
I'm
have. I'll
happy
just
to
be
shut people down.
That's
like, or I'll just ghost them, and you know, that's not maybe
That
I
too.
need to work on that. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. Somehow I do the same thing.
Yeah.
I'm like,
But at the
oh
end
no.
of the day, like, there's only so much patience here. Like, I don't know. You work on it.
Yeah, yeah. And I find that like as I move through different careers and different aspects of my career, I just I almost kind of find it exhausting to go back and pull on people, to try to maintain a connection with people that I maybe kind of only had a tenuous connection with in the first place. And really the only thing we had in common is that we happened to be on the same project team.
Mm. But I think that's okay. I think we got permission this week for that to maintain those loose ties in a weak way, and it's still valid. If anything, it's really important.
Yeah. So, though, I mean, frankly, one of my weak ties led to the job that I have now. I reached out to him. It was somebody that I hadn't worked with in like 20 years. And I just reached out with him to touch base and see what he was doing as part of my job search and ended up working for the same company as him.
No, that's no, that's fascinating, Stefan. I think I forgot. I actually forgot that one of the readings actually mentioned that sometimes our weakest ties are actually the most important ones.
Hmm.
So so that's also something to keep in mind. Thank you for sharing it. Yeah.
Mhm.
I think we more than met the quota
But
for
I
this
feel like
assignment, guys. I think we killed it.
Yeah.
yeah, I
Okay,
think we
wait.
did great.
I'm gonna stop
Oh,
the recording. Don't leave me yet.
No, no,
Okay, I'm pressing stop recording.
I'm gonna stop mine as well.
okay.
Nothing happened.